Good morning, colleagues, and thank you for your usual patience. Our first presenter this morning is Honorable Alfred Prosper, Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries, Food Security, and Rural Development. Prosper?
Good morning to all. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. Today I just want to mention a few new developments in the agricultural sector. And I will start with the first one, that last week Thursday, we commenced the distribution of 1,000 gallon capacity water tanks to our farmers. We had a short opening ceremony in Vieux at Bryce & Company, which is where the water tanks are being manufactured. And we were able to distribute more than 150 water tanks to farmers in Region 5, and that area, Region 5 covers Vieux Fort, parts of Labrie, Grace, Bellevue, etc. We continued the distribution for the Soufre farmers the day after, which is last Friday. And tomorrow we are going to continue the distribution of those water tanks to farmers in Barbono. We are hoping that these water tanks, our farmers would make very significant use of them, because climate change is having a serious impact on the agricultural sector, and water storage is very critical, especially in the dry season. So we are hoping that we can continue to distribute those water tanks, but just to also note that the last month or so we distributed 500 of those water tanks to our livestock farmers. Also, I just want to announce that we've gotten a small market in Canada for our bananas, and that is particularly green bananas. Just last week, we were able to make our first export of about 50 boxes, and that is via air, which is the plane, the aircraft, which is Air Canada. And we are hoping today that we can export 140. We have to take advantage of this market, although it's a small market. But the good thing about it is that it's not ripe bananas, it's actually green bananas. So within one day or so, the fruits can get to Canada and can be distributed throughout the country to be able to meet the persons who are actually consuming it. I think this augurs well for us, because in the next few weeks our farmers will begin to harvest, and that is since the hurricane in July, our farmers had to go into a replanting program, and we are hoping that by end of November to the December we may be experiencing a surplus of our bananas. So I do think that this new market is a timely one, and so our farmers will be able to meet the demand in the region and also what is available to us in Canada. You know, in recent months or in the last year or so, the experience we had with getting our bananas to the UK, and it would take close to 1 month to get the bananas from here into the UK, and we had serious issues with quality. Via the aircraft or via the plane, it means that the bananas will get to the country that it needs to get in quick time. And so all the issues regarding quality will be a thing of the past, because those fruits are going to be consumed green. We are also experiencing a small problem with our black Cika disease, and it's a concern to us. We did procure oil, which is the chemical that is used to treat the disease, but there are some delays in getting the oil into St. Lucia. We were supposed to receive the oil this week, but we were told because of problems at the port in the US, the oil will be getting to St. Lucia by the end of November. We are hoping that as soon as the oil gets here, we will be making available a free cycle of oil to all banana and plantain farmers, because the disease is one that can spread very quickly and make fruit quality a serious problem. So I just want to urge our farmers that we are making every effort to ensure that the oil gets there before December, and as soon as it gets into St. Lucia, they would be getting a free cycle to treat the plantations. Also announcing the procurement of 10 new ice machines for our fishers, our fish landing sites, and we are hoping that those ice machines will get into St. Lucia as soon as possible. In terms of the destruction to our fishers in Soufrière during Hurricane Beryl, we are doing our best as a government, and we are hoping that in the next few weeks, our Prime Minister will make an announcement as to compensation that will be made available to those fishers who were impacted. We are having some issues with licensing and registration of some of those fishers who experienced damage to the boats and engines, and we are hoping that before the end of the year, we will make available some level of compensation to those fishers to allow them to continue to generate an income, something that is important for them in terms of their livelihood. And we are hoping that they can get back to normalcy, but some assistance will be provided to those fishers, especially in Soufrière, as soon as possible. Thank you.
Have you had a chance to visit the Grand Riviere School, which transformed into a TVET school for agriculture?
Since that program started, I have not, but I've always been going to the Grand Riviere School. I was there some month and a half ago, but since the program started, I have not been. But I want to say I'm very excited, I'm very happy that a program of this nature is going to commence in the schools. Our young people, if we want them to see agriculture as a profession, as a business, we need to start training and preparing them very, very early. So as the Minister for Agriculture, I'm very supportive of the program because I do believe it will have an impact positively on our young people looking or seeing agriculture as the way to go upon leaving secondary school.
Any idea when the next input sale will be?
We are hoping that we will get the input sale started continuing before the end of December. As we speak, I know under the 7 Crops program at Union, we have a number of bags of fertilizer, pit moss, ground cover, irrigation lines available for that. I think the next one is going to be sometime at the end of November, but definitely before the end of the year, we're going to continue that. That is significant for us because if we have to continue to engage our farmers to ensure that we produce sufficient foods for us to consume as a country, we must continue to provide them with the support. You know, the cost of inputs have been increasing day by day, and in recent months, the Ministry of Agriculture, the government of St. Lucia, have provided tremendous support to our farmers in the form of fertilizer, farm labor, greenhouse cover, drainage, on-farm drainage. We are now desealing the main drains that are causing flooding in some of the areas, prone to flooding like Roseau, Cul-de-Sac, the Mabuya Valley. And we are now working with the government of Venezuela to see how soon we can get the 40,000 bags of fertilizer that has been promised to us. And we are hoping that in addition to that, we will get more fertilizer. I think it's another 4,000 bags from the government of Morocco that will be given to the farmers free of charge. So we've been doing a lot for the farmers in the agricultural sector, farmers, fishers, and we're hoping that we can continue to do that to really help secure ourselves in terms of food. You know, because we cannot be, and I've always been saying, the amount of food that we import in, we should be able to do better in terms of reducing that. We are seeing new markets for dashing. We have a new market that we got in Canada for dashing, and in some cases the consistency in supply is what is is not available. So there are times we would have a shortfall in terms of the required amounts, but in recent weeks we've been exporting quite a number of dashing to Canada. That goes well, especially for the farmers in the Foncier Jacques millet areas where that is the ideal climate or climatic conditions for the production of high quantity of dashing. We must take advantage of this because we have to be able to ensure that we support our farmers in terms of getting a consistent income by giving them the support they need to be able to increase or maximize the production level in terms of the various commodities that we produce in St. Lucia.
In terms of the timber jetty in Nico, has it held up and is it going well?
I have no reports of it not being held up, so it is solid, and I can tell you it's much better than the floating jetty that was given to the fishers in the last few years.
Any plans for other jetties around the island?
Well, we are hoping that we can do the same for the praline peep fishers. The praline jetty is deteriorating very rapidly, just like the one in Savans Bay. And both the praline jetty and Savans Bay jetty, that was built by the St. Lucia Labour Party. So we know how to build jetties. This government knows how to build jetties. And we've done some rehabilitation work on the Savans Bay jetty. We built a new one in Miku. And we are hoping that in the next budget, we can begin some work in terms of rehabilitating the praline jetty.
President, the fishermen they really seem to be complaining about when they land the fish, the icing they do not, especially when they come in late, they seem to have a problem. Speaking to some of them, they still have that problem. And what they say, they're losing sales. Basically, if I come in late, that means I have to lower the price. What do you intend to do down there? Because they are complaining about it, saying that facility have to be fixed down there. So what's happening with the generation?
Well, I don't know how recent you went there, but the government have spent more than $500,000 rehabilitating the Denver fishing port. You would see the painting, the drainage upgrade, the lighting. We've set up a nice facility for fishers to, bathe after they, get to port. But the issue in terms of the fishers is the ice machine. The ice machine has not been working for the last 5 years. And so Denver is set to receive a new ice machine from the 10 ice machines that we'll be getting before the end of the year under the Cirque World Bank program. So Denver, like the other 9 landing sites, each site will receive a new ice machine. What the issue is now is that because we do not have a system to be able to decommission the existing ones, because I was told that there are certain gases and so on that has to be dealt with in a manner that does not create any problems. So I've had a discussion with the Japanese ambassador. He visited my office 2 weeks ago, and they are going to provide assistance to help us decommission the existing ones before we can put in the new ones. So the Denver problem is going to be solved very shortly. And our fishers, I feel for them, I understand. I see them on the roads very late. And so, if they had the ice machine available, they would be able to procure the ice and at least freeze their fish until next day where they can actually go out to sell. But that is something that we're working on. We understand the problem, and we are hoping that it can be dealt with soon. As we speak of the fishers, we are now conducting what we call a boat masters and crew training for our fishers around the island. We are targeting 200 young aspiring fishers to be able to get that training in terms of the boat master component as well as the crew. And that is being done under the Cirque through the Department of Fisheries as we speak.
The cassava exports, how is that?
Well, cassava is one of the concerns that we have, because we do not have many people growing it, and cassava is grown in a certain dry, semi-dry areas. And when I speak of places like Garan, Oleon, Louvette, those places are the areas where we do a lot of cassava, because cassava will not do well in very wet conditions. We have a few persons doing it, but one of the things that we're doing, that we're working on as a ministry, is to see how we're going to get a special project organized for cassava, because we believe there is a lot that can be made out of cassava, cassava bread, cassava flour, and some persons are already engaged in doing it. It is just a matter of us, giving the support to more farmers to get into it and to increase the production.
Just a little on your fishing. The fishers, training for fishers. Talk about training, development. Would it include, is there any options or any avenues open to boat building, skills?
Well, we have persons doing it, although a lot of our boats come from Martinique, but in Dennery, we do not have persons actually doing boat building in terms of the fiberglass boats. We have persons in St. Lucia that are doing repairs to the fiberglass boats, but we do not have any area or persons here doing it. It's done in Martinique. I've already engaged Talamu, and he has agreed to set up a small boat building factory in St. Lucia. We have already been looking at the site, and one of the sites we had in mind is that area in Fondo. Where anybody know that site for Fondo Jazz? We were looking at somewhere along the bay there to see if we can set up something like that. But it is something that we have to look at. But currently we do not have any boat builders in terms of the fiberglass boat in St. Lucia. Yes, we still have people doing it, but that can place tremendous pressure on the forest reserve, because those trees, what we call the guamier, they would have to be pulled way in the interior, miles in the interior. And just imagine dragging a 20-foot log with a diameter of maybe 150 centimeters out of the forest, the amount of destruction it can cause to the saplings, seedlings, and the forest floor. So I do not think we should go back into this direction. I think the focus should be on the fiberglass, because our forest reserve remains very critical for our soil and water conservation, especially water. And I do not think at this time, when we are thinking climate change, for us to be going back into the forest reserve to cut those trees for boat making.
Any updates on the hatcheries, fish landing sites, and how other fishers who will be relocated taking this move?
Well, last year, I actually visited all the fishers right in front of the market where they're selling. And the problem has been that they need this place to be upgraded. They were saying that they are standing in the sun, there is very little cover, there are no tables for them to actually sell the fish. And I had a discussion with the Minister for Housing, Honorable Richard Frederick. And if you notice, just near the Lucian Blue Ocean facility, they are setting up a small structure to have those fishers actually establish themselves there. Under the CIRC again, the World Bank program, we are going to get tables, special tables and coolers, or we'll be making it available to those fishers. So you'll not be seeing the fish in a small fridge or these abandoned freezers and so on, but we're hoping that we can organize it in a way where there will be standards. So when you walk there, you'll not be seeing the fish exposed on the tables or in the coolers, etc. So they are very happy, because we did promise them that we were going to see what can be done, and I'm happy that under this government, the change is happening and the structure is being built as we speak.
A little while back, you was within your constituency. I believe a young girl got shot in the face. Have you visited the family?
I want to tell you that as the parliamentary for Dennery South, I don't go about boasting and, letting people know the level of support that we provide as a government to people. But when I heard the news, I was very, very shocked. The lady who's the mom, I know her very, very well. As soon as that happened, I got a call, and from that time, I have been providing the level of support that she needs. As we speak today, she and her daughter will be visiting a doctor who has agreed to undertake the surgery. So as of today, we will know what date that is, and all arrangements have been made for the surgery to be made free of cost to the parent. There was an amount that was charged by the OKEU I don't want to say the sum, but that has been paid by the government of St. Lucia as we speak. So she's in good hands, and our government is a government who cares. I took on this responsibility to help people to change lives, and it is important that we understand it's an unfortunate situation. None of us would like our 7-year-old to be in a situation like that. So we are doing all that is necessary as a government, particularly led by Alfred Prosper, then myself, parliamentary rep, to ensure that everything is taken care of. So have no fear, we have everything under control. But I don't like to say what I do for people, for fear that people think I'm exposing, something that should be more or less private. But she's being taken care of, and everything is going smoothly as we speak to help treat the facial impact by the bullet or gunshot wound. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. A few months back, the Helens Association for Autistic Persons held a press conference, and one of the issues they had was parents, their children either not being able to attend a school for special needs, or that school cannot cater to their child's specific needs, and they mentioned cases of their child being excluded in certain things. One of the things that a teacher on the meeting called for was training and more support for the special education unit. What do you have to say to that?
Yes, I think I remember that particular pronouncement being made in the public space. Let me say that at the Ministry of Education, we take special education very, very seriously. We have made significant strides in recent years. We are at a point now where we are concluding a comprehensive SEN policy, SEN, S-E-N, Special Education Needs Policy, with funding from the World Bank. A number of our teachers have been trained in the area of special education. We are not where we want to be, but I can assure you that serious strides are being made to have better trained teachers to deal with some of the students that we have to incorporate into the school system. We have tried as much as possible to, instead of having the students at special needs school, students who have demonstrated that they have the aptitude to get by in mainstream schooling, we bring them in, and sometimes we have to pull them out for special instructions or special attention, as we say, just to ensure that we engender a sense of independence. It doesn't always augur well for children who show mild symptoms of autism to be stigmatized and be placed at special institutions. So you will find from time to time we are going to be faced with some of those cases where parents will not be satisfied with the approach. And sometimes we empathize with them, we sympathize with them because we know how demanding it can be on those parents. But let me assure you that as a Ministry of Education, we will do whatever is necessary with the limited resources we have to ensure that we give every child in this country, irrespective of his or her station in life, the best educational experience that we can give.
Can you tell me how the one graduate per household initiative is going and how many have benefited thus far?
Yes, our government from very early signaled a very bold and deliberate policy position where we are pushing to have at least one university graduate per household. And I can tell you that of the different areas of programming in the government, this is one that I am particularly pleased with in terms of the efforts that are being put out or being made by the team at the Ministry of Education. And to date, I can tell you in excess of 1,000 St. Lucians since we came into office have benefited as a result of direct government assistance to attaining higher education. And that includes the bursary program at the South Louis Community College, as well as university scholarships that have been given to young St. Lucians to pursue degrees in Hungary, Morocco, Serbia, Cuba, Taiwan, etc. And very, very prominent in this policy position is the first generation scholarship program that we've entered into with Monroe College, where at least twice a year we have a cohort of 50 persons enrolling at Monroe College to pursue bachelor's degrees. So as it stands now with Monroe College, we roll out
67 scholarships annually, 50 of which are first generation. And first generation speaks to individuals who are coming from households and families when nobody else in the family would have had access to university education. And we believe this is a very bold and progressive move on the part of the Philip J. Pierre-led administration. And to complement the 50 first generation scholarships, we have 17 additional scholarships that Monroe makes available at the bachelor's level, where you have 14 part-time scholarships and 3 full-time scholarships. This is also complemented by an associate's degree in sports management that we're rolling out again with Monroe College. And you would have heard me mention Monroe College several times, but Monroe College is not the only higher educational institution with which we are forging that kind of partnership. The government makes available economic cost awards to St. Lucian students who are studying at what we call the landed campuses of the University of the West Indies, namely the Keyville campus in Barbados, the Mona campus in Jamaica, and the St. Augustine campus in Trinidad. We've gone further with UWI by establishing what in the Ministry of Education we call the UniPass program, where for the first time, and there's a cabinet conclusion that speaks to it, persons who are pursuing their degrees with the University of the West Indies via the Global Campus, which was formerly the Open Campus, they too can apply for assistance from the government. And this is the first time that this has ever happened since UWI was established so many years ago, and we know St. Lucian's enrolling at UWI. So in relation to higher education, I'm extremely pleased with the strides that we are making. And this is all part and parcel of a philosophy that we've espoused as a government. The Prime Minister would have spoken to it. I've made the pronouncement time and again that in a small island developing nation like St. Lucia, where you do not have mineral resources, the quality of your human resource base more than anything else will determine whether you thrive and the extent to which you can remain competitive in a very fiercely competitive global environment. So I'm extremely pleased with the strides that we've made so far.
Questions? Please give me an update on the church and secondary. What is happening with the school? I know for the past years, I mean, in a problem state, what is happening with it today?
Well, I think almost 2 years ago, the government would have taken a position where the George Charles Secondary School, as we knew it, was decommissioned. There's a cabinet conclusion that speaks to that. This facility is now in the hands of the Ministry of Equity, where it is being repurposed to serve as a juvenile rehabilitation center. So as we speak today, what we knew as the George Charles Secondary School, it has been decommissioned. And as I said, it is in the purview of the Ministry of Equity. But the one thing I can tell you, and the Prime Minister said that very early, months into our term in government, that whatever institution that is set up at that particular location, it will bear the name of the late great George F.L. Charles, who served our country with distinction for many, many years.
Where are we at now with school security and the roads and get some investment to it?
Yes, school security remains a priority area for the Ministry of Education. And I think we've made considerable strides in terms of trying to create that secure environment within which students, teachers, and the extended education family can coexist. But school security is more than just securing the buildings. I know for a while now we've been speaking about having watchmen in our schools, where the watchman is the typical individual who comes in sometimes with a little transistor radio at 4 p.m. He pulls a bench to a particular corner of the school and he sits there until night falls, and then he goes into a room. And that is his job as a watchman. We are going beyond that. We are talking about incorporating real security personnel, because it makes no sense if you are going to continue investing millions of dollars in the upgrade of the physical plant. You are investing hundreds of thousands of dollars for the establishment of smart classrooms. You are procuring laptops by the thousands. If you will be injecting that kind of resources into the school as we know it, it stands to reason that you must have the requisite security to ensure that those are not vandalized and the schools are not burglarized, and that the investment we make is preserved. So very recently we recruited, at least for the north of the island, the retired inspector of police, Mr. Innocent. And he comes in highly trained, highly recommended. He worked with the RSS, he worked at this Special Services Unit for a number of years. And Mr. Innocent has brought to the Ministry of Education a new dimension to the whole security apparatus and the whole discourse on school security. So in addition to securing the buildings, we also are very big on ensuring that all our schools remain as safe spaces when the children report on a morning with the teachers, the principals, the ancillary staff, until they leave on an afternoon. Further than just the security aspect where safety is accentuated, this academic year, you will see a marked improvement in terms of students being put through simulation exercises in the event that we are struck, say, by an earthquake or tsunami and things of that sort. And it informs a much broader conversation that is happening regionally, where through the CDMA, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, we are talking about the Safe Schools Initiative. And early next year, we will be hosting a conference for ministers of education and other personnel in the education sphere, where we're looking at the safety of schools. So yes, security from the standpoint of keeping intruders out, and also safety and security where children are being sensitized from a very early age in terms of how they can make themselves safe and how they can preserve their own being in the event that we are struck by a disaster.
Yes, sir. Lately, we've another emphasis on the TVET program, educational skills. Now, we've heard from the Chamber of Commerce, that our skills market is short on supply. How do you see this TVET, transforming into producing more skilled laborers, even in construction area, Venezuelans coming here to take work, different things that the skills, plumbing, electrical, this is kind of enhanced, workers could be able to get a better job.
I'm extremely pleased. I'm extremely excited about the TVET program in the Ministry of Education. And as I speak today, I think the TVET program is arguably the most visible program emanating out of the Ministry of Education and really making waves in the public space. Very early when we came into government, I did make the pronouncement that it was the intention of our government to transform 4 of our traditional secondary schools into TVET centers. And we've done that quite successfully to date, where the former Angers Secondary School has now been converted into a TVET center. Likewise, the PI Secondary School, the Stanley John Odlum Secondary School, and the Grenadier Secondary School. And this TVET initiative is really as a result of studies that would have been conducted and that accentuated the deficiencies in the workforce. And you made the point moments ago where there is an over-reliance on foreign personnel to come into our country to help us execute projects for which we just do not have the skill set in country. And the TVET programs in the Ministry of Education are supposed to cure that particular problem. At the schools that I just mentioned, students go in there to learn specific trades so that upon graduation, they will be immersed into the workforce almost immediately. And quite apart from the CXC, CSEC certificates with which they would have graduated from the quote-unquote traditional secondary schools, they are living with CVQs, Caribbean Vocational Qualifications. That particular qualification is not confined to work only in St. Lucia. But what the CVQ does is that it empowers an individual to work in any of the CARICOM member states. And as a result of having a CVQ qualification, you are exempted from work permit in other Caribbean nations. So I'm very excited about it. We have a few areas to tweak. We continue to revisit the curriculum to bring in areas that we believe can have a direct economic impact in the country by way of skilled personnel who can make a contribution to the workforce and indirectly to the advancement of our country. So you have things like carpentry, you have masonry, and things of that sort. But I'll tell you what I'm most excited about when I visit those schools is when you see traditional classrooms where you would have had 30 chairs and 30 desks in a particular classroom. You enter that classroom today and you see state-of-the-art barbershops. You enter what would have been a classroom with 25 pieces of furniture. Today you have a modern kitchen, a kitchen that is comparable to what you have at some of the best hotels in St. Lucia and the Caribbean. Because we don't want to just talk the talk, but we want to give our students real life experiences. So that when a child handles the utensils at a particular TVET school, where that child is learning culinary arts and general hospitality management, that when the child, whether it's for internship or actually gets recruited by a hotel, the facilities that that child or that student, encounters will not be foreign to him or her in terms of the standards and the quality. So we believe that this is a very powerful intervention that we've made with TVET education. As I said, there are a few areas in the curriculum that we continuously have to be revisiting just to ensure that our students have the best training possible to make them ready for industry and to bolster the workforce that can make St. Lucia competitive regionally and globally.
How has the teaching of Mandarin and Creole been going at our schools?
Yes, I would have, in an address to the nation prior to the formal commencement of the academic year, I did mention that we were going to introduce the teaching of Creole in schools. That was very well received, not just in the extended education family, but nationally. You walk the streets and people recognize you as the Minister for Education, and they tell you how pleased they are with this particular intervention. There had been talk of the introduction of formal Creole instruction in school. Now, Creole instruction does not mean that you are embarking on instruction in Creole as opposed to teaching Creole itself. Because Creole instruction can mean that, look, you are conducting a mathematics program, lesson today, or science in Creole. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about teaching Creole as a language, exposing our children to the rudiments of the Creole language at a very, very early age. And I can tell you one thing I've discovered. There's a misconception that it is only the children from the urban parts who cannot speak Creole. We have seen a real shift where that is concerned. I remember as a child growing up in Denny Riviere in the Mabuya Valley in Denry, where my grandmother and my mother would have spoken to me in Creole. It was forbidden for you to have responded in Creole. But I think I had attained what we call in language native speaker competence by the age of 7, 8. Today, I converse with the 8-year-old who lives next door in Creole, and it's a struggle for them to keep up. So gone are the days when we thought that it was only the child from urban St. Lucia who couldn't speak Creole, but we've seen it across the board, and I think we are duty-bound as a country to deliberately roll out policy that will ensure that our people can speak Creole and that the language is preserved and that the values that have been ascribed to it naturally will remain with us for generations to come. We have started piloting it at the infant level. Not every one of our 74 public primary schools have been exposed, but select schools. And we are also happy to have on board the Montessori school in Grosile, where you have the students of ambassadors and some very well-known persons in St. Lucian society. And I can tell you, it is going like hot bread at Montessori. And parents are even expressing a desire and making the suggestion that maybe we should extend the classes to ensure that the parents themselves can benefit. It's a conversation we're prepared to have, but what I'm satisfied with is the fact that we have actually started. We have had a few challenges. We will overcome those, I'm sure, but I'm happy to say here today that Creole, or the teaching of Creole, is on our books, and it is happening in schools across the country. In the case of the Mandarin program, we would have started with 2 secondary schools. Mandarin is being offered at the secondary level. We started with the St. Joseph's Convent and the St. Mary's College. And only last week, I was at the Vieux Fort Comprehensive Secondary School, where myself and Ambassador Peter Chen of the Republic of China, Taiwan, we made a donation of books to the students at the Vieux Fort Comprehensive Secondary School. So as we speak now, the St. Joseph's Convent, the St. Mary's College, and the Vieux Fort Comprehensive Secondary Schools are benefiting from the Mandarin language program in our secondary school system. And people have asked, but why are we teaching Chinese? Why are we teaching Mandarin? 20% of the world's population speak Mandarin. Every year, we are the recipients of scholarships from the government of Taiwan. And if we can expose our students to the Mandarin language at this particular juncture of their development, I think this is an additional bow they will have in their arrows, because we have said at the Ministry of Education that we roll out an education program that will make our students into global citizens. And it is not enough for any child to go through our school system today being proficient only in English. You must, as a global citizen, be in a position where you can speak at least one additional language from your native language.
Some time ago it was said that the government list of priority subjects would have been updated. Any progress?
Say that again?
Some time ago it was said that the government list of priority subjects would have been updated. Any progress on? Yes, well, yeah.
I think you're talking about the priority list in terms of areas of study, as opposed to subjects. Well, historically, there was what we call the priority list, and this was really a list of areas for training. And that list was arrived at after consultation between personnel from the Ministry of Education and personnel from the Ministry of the Public Service. And again, let me say that the list was not drawn up because a particular individual believed it was necessary to have this area of study as opposed to this one. This was clearly and carefully thought of after needs assessment would have been done. So in the area of healthcare, the Ministry of Health would have a pretty good idea in terms of what skills we need moving forward. So it was very easy to see on the priority list for a particular period, say oncology, because of the number of cancer patients we have and the prevalence of cancer in our society. So these are some of the things that would inform what the priority areas of study are. I must tell you that there has been very robust debate as to whether this is still necessary in a globalized environment, or whether we just open the floodgates and allow people to study whatever they want. But what I know and what I suspect will always remain is that if government will continue to be the agency to fund certain individuals' study programs, the government must have a hand in deciding what is it that we want people to go out there and get qualified in. Because what you don't want is for there to continually be an influx of persons from the outside coming to do things that I believe as a people we have the capacity to be able to do for ourselves.
Within that context, today speaking, I will be going to accountant week, where the accountants are saying that presently we have a lot of women going into accounting and not men. And they also mentioned that the maths, I believe, for you don't know that well, our level of the maths now have been going down, especially with the men and not enough men getting involved in accounting. What do you really intend to do to really push?
Yes, I think that question is quite loaded, and quite a few issues were touched on. First of all, you're talking about the disparity in terms of the number of women in society we see attaining professional qualifications as opposed to the male counterparts. I want to be very deliberate in looking at that particular dynamic as it relates to the education sector. For every 20 teachers we recruit in the school system, 18 of them are ladies. For every 10 principals appointed in the school system, 9 of them are ladies. So there is a bit of a disparity. And I'm saying if we have to look down the road and we want to have a situation that is not lopsided, we have to make a greater pitch for gender parity as far as management roles in society are concerned. But that does not mean in any way trying to diminish the achievement of women. The women have demonstrated that they have this desire to propel themselves forward. They're the ones grabbing at the higher educational opportunities that the state makes available. And you can't fault them for that. But there's also a concern that we are expressing as government. We want to have a society where you have men step into the plate so our young boys can have role models whom they can emulate. In the field of accounting, I don't have the figures and therefore cannot speak as authoritatively as I can on the school system and education in general. But it goes without saying that as it relates to the attainment of higher education and persons coming forward to make good on higher educational opportunities, there is a great disparity in terms of male and female. You go to the South Louis Community College and you just walk the campus, or you peruse the attendance figures, and you will see that the boys are outnumbered. For me, as Minister for Education, it's a conversation I've started, that we have to find a way to identify the promising, bright, committed young men in the system. And if it means that we have to embark on an accelerated program to propel them into leadership positions, we are prepared to do so. And it is something I will be championing in the coming weeks and months.
Okay, as Minister for Education, so as you said, you're willing to champion that. We have 17 constituencies. Within those 17 constituencies, we have what the amount of blocks we have within those 17 constituencies. Most of those blocks, the population are men, young men who went to secondary school. What does the government intend to do about that? Because, as you said, we have a big problem. Those guys will sit down there, I go to work 8, come back, the same time I go to see them there, they tell you nothing running. And all of the blocks, you would know, all of the blocks, nothing not running. Why would young men be sitting on a block and saying nothing running? What is the government doing about that? At the same time, we are saying our men are not doing nothing while they just sit on the blocks. What do you intend as a government to do about that?
I think this calls for much broader conversation than just standing here and postulating solutions to what you've just cited. It is something I can relate to. It happens in my constituency, and you quite rightly said it happens across the length and breadth of this country. I think what we're witnessing there is a decay in the moral fabric of our society. It goes back to the home. What orientation do we have for our children, and more so the boys? And the adage has been around for much longer than any one of us in this room. Boys will be boys. They wire differently. But that is not an excuse for young men not wanting to stand up and to go out there and achieve things for themselves. The reality is that they are idle, quite a few of them. I do not believe they're in the majority. I believe we have a lot of young persons in St. Lucia who are engaging in very positive acts to build themselves, build their families, and to build our country. But the significant few who continue to just exist and who seem to be very apathetic about a lot of things, we have to find ways to reach them, because it makes no sense where you have a society where you have a handful of individuals doing well and you have another handful who just believe it is okay to just be idle and not wanting to contribute positively. For our part, the government, we have, and the Labour Party has a very, very proud record on which we all stand as it relates to the social interventions we've made as a government whenever we are in office. Look at the distress fund. That is a social program. We were the ones who brought in the NICE program to create employment for people who otherwise would not have been employed. I know many persons have frowned on the STEP program and see it as being insignificant, but they can only speak to the STEP program as being insignificant when they have not endured the circumstances that the people who benefit from STEP have had to live with. So it has to be a balancing act where we will be the government that will create that enabling environment where investors can come in, and as we speak, billions of dollars are being invested in St. Lucia today. I'm not talking about billions in terms of pronouncements that are being made to signal intentions. We're talking about underground construction. We're talking about businesses thriving. We're seeing the expansion of establishments, and all of that is happening today in the north of the island in particular. You look at construction of St. Jude. All of these things contribute to the economy. But whereas you can speak to record tourism arrivals and you can speak to mega infrastructural projects in the country, it is also very important and very critical to ensure that the people on the other levels in the society, they too can coexist. And that is why, at the same time that you have billions of dollars of construction activity happening to signal projects that are supposed to spur us on economically, you have something in reserve to ensure that on the eve of Christmas, on the eve of the reopening of school, that you have a STEP program that engenders a sense of confidence. And I know people have frowned on it before. I can tell you I'm part of an administration where we will make absolutely no apologies for having a STEP program, because I have seen firsthand in my community, when they come and they get their paycheck, whether it's $400 or $500, how it is able to make things happen for them. And we have to respect people for the stations that they happen to be in life. In some cases, people are just victims of circumstances, but it doesn't mean that you can just label them and believe that they have no significance in any society that is supposed to thrive and one in which children are supposed to grow to want to realize their dreams and become great.
Well, we within that context, we have been when it comes to skilled workers, we have been lacking a lot. Speaking to the chamber, I believe a survey they had, they were complaining about skilled workers. We just say one of our top contractors said that we do not have skilled workers, you have to import workers. At the same time, we do have those young men on the blocks. What do we intend to do about it when the chamber is saying no skilled workers, we have young men? Our top contractor is saying, I cannot get workers, but our young men are on the blocks.
Okay, very well. Okay, I would have spoken to the whole intention of the TVET program in the Ministry of Education to ensure that we expose our students to certain professions and vocations and teach them and train them in a way where they become ready for immersion into the world of work upon graduation. We also have the NELU program in the Ministry of Education that deals with instruction, after school instruction, so to speak, where adults, people who are already in industry, as well as those who are unemployed, can go into the various centers and enroll to do programs that would make them employable. And you have to program in such a way that your people would want to live at a certain level in the society. It can't be enough that you just get a job just as a laborer, but you have to aspire to be more than just a laborer. And to complement what is happening in the TVET schools, you have the NELU, you have the NSDC that will receive some additional funding along with the South Louis Community College, all part and parcel of creating that environment where people can avail themselves to the training opportunities that are there. But I take the point that we have a particular demographic of young males who need the extra push. And I'm one of those who do not believe that we should just label them as being not interested or not having any value to society. In a population of 180,000 people, which I've likened to a crowd at a train station in any developed country on a given afternoon, there is a place for everybody. We just have to work together to ensure that we meet them at their level and to show them the pathways that have been created that would cause them to elevate their own thinking, their standards, and their own dispositions in life. Thank you. Bye-bye. Enjoy the rest of your day.